Hi, if you're new here, I'm Kylie, just another Army vet, and today I'm finishing my reaction to the Beerbiceps podcast with Lieutenant General KJS Dhillon, episode 269 of the Ranveer Show. Let's get to it.
Okay, this is the juiciest portion of both the podcasts, which I've been looking forward to from the time we met you in that room. I know you can't go into the details of this, but on a very surface level, just for education purposes, what is the Defense Intelligence Agency? Because you headed it. What does that mean? For teenagers listening to it, what does intelligence mean? You know, when you say, oh, intelligence, agency, etc., there's a very foggy idea. People think of James Bond, people think of spies, people think of RAW. How is this different from RAW? Does it work with RAW? What's happening?
Okay. Defense Intelligence Agency is an agency of the defense which collects intelligence.
What is intelligence?
The basic one-word definition of what intelligence is information.
So intelligence is synthesizing of corroboration of information which is available from various domains.
Okay.
You have information coming from 10 sources. You sift it together, you synthesize it, you filter it. Then there's some voids. You task an agency which is probably better in equation intelligence. You fill up that void. You make the int picture, the intelligence picture. Once it is confirmed intelligence picture, then the information which had been gathered is called intelligence. Once it has got some intelligence weight in it.
Yeah.
Now, intelligence is of two types. One is red hot intelligence, as the civilian would understand, that information on which or intelligence on which you have to act immediately, otherwise it will go bad. It's like the 4 terrorists are sitting in that hut now. If you don't act in next 30 minutes, they would move out. Then this intelligence is of no use. So such like intelligence is, even if there's a little bit of void, then you launch, and on ground you go and confirm by various means. Second is a background intelligence. You collected this intelligence and all, you realize, like you would have seen in a lot of movies, where the sleeper cells have been identified.
You mean terrorists?
But they are not acted against. The agencies wait for the opportune moment, probably when all the components are together, or probably when there's a big fish which has come in, or probably when they're just about to launch some very sensational attack.
So here's an example of some intel that was actually leaked from the Pentagon security breach. But in one of the top secret documents, it talks about how South Korea is in the middle of this internal debate on whether or not to help Ukraine because they're actually scared of Russia. So the question is, how did the U.S. get that kind of top secret information from South Korea? And that's because they actually put bugs in some of the government buildings and actually spied on South Korea. So that would not be an example of the red hot intelligence, but that would be an example of the latter kind.
So they will hit at that time. So that is called background intelligence. So there are different types of it. And the question about functioning with the other agency, like I told you, all intelligence agencies in the country.
So these kind of agencies do not collaborate, and if they aren't transparent with each other, that's how you miss things. And that's exactly what happened with Pearl Harbor.
Work in a very cohesive manner, and they meet practically every day. Every day there's a physical meeting, and electronic flow of information is real time between all these agencies.
Okay.
This is to make the youth aware that things are happening in the right way.
On the previous podcast, you said that the Indian military is always engaged in some form of operation. Now, I am assuming that before you strategize for the operation, the step involved is gathering of intelligence. And that's where the Defense Intelligence Agency really comes into play. For military-based operations, you're gathering all the information for the boys to actually go out and perform the operation efficiently without a loss of life. Am I correct in saying this?
See, what I said in the previous Hindi podcast was, any military which is not in continuous operations or which stays away from operations for a very long time, they get a little jarred. So when the day of the operation, they may not be up to it. So it's always good. And Indian Army that way is better because we are always in some sort of a operational area after every peace tenure. Right. Now coming to the point about how the operations and how the intelligence, if you have to buy a TV, what do?
Research.
You search the net. You ask a friend who had bought a particular thing, how is this TV working? You'll say it's good. You ask other friend, he said, no, mine is better. Now this is intelligence gathering. Once all this intelligence or the information has come to you, then you start working out which is the best option.
Okay.
But then you realize you don't have that type of money. Then you go for the second best. Similarly, when you're gathering information intelligence, you come to the best possible way of carrying out operations. But then you realize for this, I need these resources. If they're there, go for it. If those resources are not there, and you can't wait for them to build up, then you probably do. And there comes in the leadership. There comes in the planning.
Creativity?
We call it, in the military terms, we call it how the leaders plan.
Okay.
And a good leadership can make a difference between the defeat and victory.
Okay.
Because same resources, when employed in a particular manner, may give a X dividend. But the same resources, when their orchestration is done differently, can give you X plus dividends.
Every leader and soldier needs to know how to adapt and overcome, especially in combat situations.
So all these things, and then operational logistics, as you said, they're a very important component of any operational planning.
I'm asking this very respectfully. Again, because this is a question that we've brought up on the podcast a couple of years ago. I think we'd asked GD Bakshi sir about this, and that time there wasn't enough information about it. But whatever had happened with Bipin-Rawat sir, has the military now understood? It's just a yes or no question. Because
it is accidents happen. The court of inquiry has been conducted in this incident also, and any other accidents of helicopters or crafts which happen. A court of inquiry is a must. And once the court of inquiry is conducted, whatever the outcome, whatever the reasons for it, and then they are improved upon. Whether it's a technical issue or whether it's a judgmental issue or whatever it is, whether issue and all. So in all accidents which happen in the army, even if there's a small accident, I just got a scrape on my finger, there is a court of inquiry so that it does not get repeated. So in this case also, I'm sure the court of inquiry was held and it is in place.
Okay. You had worked with him?
Yes, I was Deputy Chief of Defence Staff, Integrated Defence Staff, and looking after intelligence. And of course, I was the Corps Commander when he was the Chief. I was the BGS in the Corps Headquarters when he was the GOC.
So is a Corps Commander in the Indian Army equivalent to a Corps Commander in the U.S. Army?
I was the Brigade Commander, his neighboring Brigade Commander when he was the GOC in Baramulla. I was the neighboring Brigade Commander in Handwara. I worked very closely with him.
There was brotherhood.
He was a solid commander. Lot of combat experience, very sharp. He will pick up a thing like this, give a decision like this, and he will stand by his subordinates. He had a great vision for future and the perfect commander which you can look for. A military man to the hilt.
Why perfect commander?
What I'm saying is, he was the man who could gauge your work. He would give you a job and let you do the job. And he is not the one who will keep interfering with you every now and then. He will guide you. He will enable you. He will give you additional resources.
In other words, he was not a micromanager.
He was very good, visionary.
What is his legacy for the Indian military?
All great commanders, all great leaders leave a legacy where people get influenced by them, motivated by them. And there are a lot of people who are motivated by his way of functioning, those who served with him, myself included.
Yeah.
The way he worked in Kashmir, the way he worked in various combat areas in Northeast and other places, and as a chief and CDS, great man.
Yeah. Again, it's an honor that I'm getting to talk to such a high-ranking military officer. Just sliding that in, that's what I've been feeling throughout these two. So every question I'm asking you, while it's direct, I mean it with a lot of respect. And I don't mean to cross any line with you. At the cost of making this a little dark, as someone who's seen a lot of death and death very up close, and I'm sure your appreciation for life increases a lot. especially at the end of your military tenure? So,
I've been in combat situations since captain days. Captain, major, lieutenant colonel, CO, brigade commander. The first unfortunate incident which happened under my command was when I was a brigadier. I still remember Lance Naik Pate Tashuk. I written about great detail about this incident also, because that was the first death under my command, where a soldier lost his life in the line of duty after 4-5 tenures. The most difficult part of any commander's duty is
Tenure, does that mean deployment, or what does that mean?
to lay the wreath on the mortal remains, which as a corps commander, I had to perform that duty for a few occasions, including Pulwama. After Pulwama, that incident when we killed them in 100 hours, we lost people. We lost Major Dondiar and soldiers. So the most difficult job of a commander in his lifetime is to lay the wreath on the mortal remains before they are sent to the next of kin to their homes. So it's a very, what do I say? It's a job you have to do. It's the job which you can't say I don't like. It's the job where you got to minimize your casualties. And nation wants you to do that job and you have to do it. There's no turning back. But it is a difficult moment when you lose a man. And I have invariably been in the hospital whenever the casualty comes to the hospital. So that, last minute, somebody should not falter for some small little thing. I will give a decision then and there, let go. Money is not a criteria at all. Nothing stops if you can save a man. The doctors in 92 base hospitals in Kashmir, Srinagar, are the best you can have. I've seen them reviving almost dying patients.
92 base hospitals in Kashmir? It sounds like Kashmir is huge.
So every evening, you come back with that feeling that I saved someone. Yeah. And as a commander, my biggest responsibility is towards my command, towards the men I command.
Tiny sir, my God. Heavy talking to you. Be it all the information or just perspectives. Want to learn from you more in life. And before I let you go at the end of today's episode, I have to ask you a little bit about your book, which I'm very keen on reading. I feel there's a lot of heavy stuff in there. What would you like to say about your book to the viewers?
See, this book is a life story from the day I was 3 years old till abrogation of Article 370 and time after that. So it's a journey of that small 3-year-old child, his struggles, which actually started at 3 years of age. How he faced the challenges, how he failed, how he fell down, how he got up, cleaned himself and ran again, how he failed again. The lesson here is 1 failure or 2 failures don't make you a failure. That gives you energy to win again.
So you may have heard this before, but failure and making mistakes is just a learning opportunity.
And from there, it's about marriage, it's about unit life, NDA, IMA training, a lot of anecdotes, the marriage life, early marriage, children birth, challenges, the wife spot, the children spot, then Kashmir. 70% book is on Kashmir.
Yeah.
Starting with 1988, Rashtra Rifles, Sirf Naam hi kafi hai. Survival, you said army marches on its stomach, the full chapter on survival skills, how army survives when there are no Russians. What are the things we do? So if anyone is wanting to join the army, boy or girl, it's a first-hand guide. If anyone wants to marry an army boy or army girl, it's again a first-hand guide. And it's about challenges from a young 3-year-old boy to a young lieutenant to a lieutenant general. The levels of challenges differ. Challenges remain, and how you convert them into opportunities is what is the crux of this book. Aim being only to tell the youngsters what they're coming into, if they're army aspirants. And the name of the book is Kitne Ghazi Aaye, Kitne Ghazi Gaye. Cover is just released. I'm sure I'll send it to you.
Yes, we put it right here in this part of the podcast.
Exactly.
That book definitely sounds like it's worth reading.
I think you know how grateful I am by this point in the show. Once again, sir, I salute you. Thank you
Thank
for
you
your
very much.
service. And thank you for giving us 2 incredible episodes. I highly recommend listeners go check out our Hindi episode as well, sir.
Thank you.
And hoping to see you again on the Ranveer Show.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So a lot of Ranveer's military-themed episodes have 500,000 or 1,000,000 plus views, which makes sense because they're always really good and informative. I'm looking at this, and this one only has 372,000 views, and it was published 4 months ago. I'm not sure why this one did not get as many views, because I really did enjoy it, and I really like to get his perspective on Kashmir, especially since he spent so many years there before the abrogation of Article 370 and even after. So I think the information that he has to share with India and the world is very valuable. The one podcast that I would really love to see is if Ranveer could get Major Arya and General Dhillon on the same show. I think that would be very interesting, especially considering how knowledgeable they both are on Kashmir and on Pakistan. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you did enjoy my reaction to this podcast, I would really appreciate a like and a sub. And if you do want to help support the channel, I can always use a comment, share, or thanks. And if you want to watch another Beer Biceps podcast, I have one for you right here.